Okay, so here are the show and tell questions that are going to be used after December the 4th, 2017. That's when there's some changes on the driving test. And the show me questions are actually going to be while the vehicle is in motion. So unlike the earlier test where it was in the car park, you're now going to be asked the questions while you're driving to show that you have got the ability to put the heating on or put your fog lights on while the car's actually moving. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you wash and clean the rear windscreen? Okay, so to wash the rear windscreen, you will need to operate this stalk on the right hand side, and it's the end part just rotates away, so that position there gives you an intermittent wipe. Turn it a little bit further, it's a non-locking position, and that actually squirts water on the rear window. It'll then do another wipe and then either go back to intermittent or off if you've actually switched it all the way off. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you wash and clean the front windscreen? Okay, so to wash the front screen, you'll need to use this stalk on the right hand side of the steering column, and you pull it towards the steering wheel and it will give a squirt and does about 3 wipes, and then it will stop, and then it will do another wipe just to make sure, and then it will go back to doing whatever it was doing before. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd switch on your dipped headlights? To switch on the dipped headlights, it's the stalk on the left hand side of the steering column. You switch it 1, 2 positions, and that's dipped headlights. You can also tell that you've got dipped headlights on by the symbol here that shows dipped headlights. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you would set your rear demister? To switch the rear window demister on, with the engine running, it'll only work with the engine running, you simply press this button here and that will light up, and that's on a timer. It will switch itself off after a little while. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you would operate the horn? To operate the horn, it's anywhere in this middle part of the steering wheel, and it's a firm press will operate the horn. There we go. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you would demist the front windscreen? To demist the front window, what you want to do is on the heater and fan controls here, is select everything that's got the little symbol, windscreen symbol. So we'll turn that one all the way to windscreen, this one all the way to number 6, which will give us the most amount of air, and this one onto full heat. Remember to turn them back to where they were when you started, otherwise you'll end up with a sauna. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you would open and close the side window? To open a side window, we've got the A button, which is automatic, and that's the driver's side. This button on the other side is for the passenger, but if we want to open our window, we've just got to press that once, and then the window will go all the way down automatically. If we want it to come back up again, we just pull the button up, and then the window will return. If we want to stop it anywhere part way, we can just press it in little dabs. Okay, so I'm just going to read through the tell me questions, where you've just got to describe. You don't have to actually show anything or demonstrate anything, it's just verbally describing how you would check various things the examiner's going to ask you. So let's start off with, tell me how you would check that the brakes are working before starting a journey. Brakes should not feel spongy or slack. Test the brakes as you set off, and the vehicle shouldn't pull to one side. Tell me where you'd find the information for the recommended tyre pressures for the car and how they should be checked. You can find the information in the manufacturer's guide or handbook. Use a reliable tyre pressure gauge and check the tyres when they're cold. Remember to replace the valve cap after checking them, and don't forget the spare. Tell me how you can check to make sure your head restraints are correctly adjusted to give you the best protection in the event of a crash. The head restraint should be adjusted so that the rigid part of the head restraint is at least as high as your eye level or the top of your ear and close to the back of your head. Some head restraints might not be adjustable, but these are in this car. Tell me how you would check the tyres to ensure that they've got sufficient tread depth and that their general condition is safe to use on the road. So the tyre should have no cuts and bulges, and it should have 1.6mm tread minimum across 3/4 of the central breadth or width of the tyre around the entire circumference of the tyre. Tell me how you would check that the headlights and tail lights are working before starting a journey. And you don't need to get out the car, this is just to tell me how you would check. So to check that the headlights and tail lights are working, I'll turn them on and walk around the car and actually check that they are working. Tell me how you'd know if there was a problem with your anti-lock braking system. If there's a problem with the anti-lock braking system, then a warning light will come up on the dashboard. Tell me how you'd check that the direction indicators are working. For the indicators, I'd actually press the hazard warning light switch, which will operate all of the indicators, and then I'll get out the car and walk around and actually check that they're all working. Tell me how you'd check that the brake lights are working on this car. Okay, to check that the brake lights are working, I'll turn the ignition on, press the brake pedal, and either use reflections from something behind the car, a window or a garage door, or get somebody to go round the back and look for me. Tell me how you would check that the power assisted steering is working before starting a journey. For the power steering, if the steering becomes heavy, then I would instantly think that there's a problem with it. But otherwise, what you could do before starting the journey is to put some pressure on the steering wheel as if you're turning it, and then as long as the car's safe in neutral, handbrake on, start the engine, and then you would feel the power steering kick in as the engine starts, and you would know that you've got power assisted steering. Tell me how you'd switch on the fog lights on this car and explain when you would need to use the fog lights. So to operate the fog lights, you'd start off with turning on the dipped headlights, and then the switch on the same stalk, rotational switch to turn on the rear fog light. The ignition has to be on for that to work. You would need to use your fog lights if visibility became less than 100 meters. Tell me how you'd switch your headlights from dipped beam to main beam, and how would you know you're on main beam? So to switch the dipped beam to main beam, it's the same stalk on the left that you used to turn the dipped beam on with. You pull the stalk towards the steering wheel till it clicks, and then you'll get a warning light on the dashboard that comes up as blue, whereas the dip beam warning light is green, and that tells you that you've switched them on. Open the bonnet and tell me how you would check that the engine has sufficient oil. To open the bonnet, there's actually a lever, a release lever on the passenger side. You do have to open the door to operate it. You just pull on that lever and that releases the catch on the bonnet. On the front edge of the bonnet there's actually a safety catch. It's around about here somewhere. It's a little paddle, and you pull the lever towards you and then you can open the bonnet. Then attach the bonnet stay to the underside of the bonnet. There's a yellow sticker around the hole so you know where it is. Check the engine oil. You've got the dipstick here which you would remove, wipe with a clean rag, reinsert, take out, and then read the level between the maximum and minimum marks. Open the bonnet and tell me how you check that the engine has sufficient engine coolant. To check you've got sufficient engine coolant, the bottle's here, it's got a maximum and minimum mark on it, and you can see where the level of the water is. Open the bonnet and tell me how you would check that you have a safe level of hydraulic brake fluid. To check you've got sufficient hydraulic fluid, it's this bottle here. It actually says brake fluid on the lid, and on the side you've got maximum and minimum marks. You just check that the levels between those two marks. To lower the bonnet, remove the bonnet stay, put it back in the little keeper there. Drop the bonnet to about that sort of height, a couple of inches from being fully closed, and you can just let go and then it should shut firmly. If it hasn't locked down, press on the front edge, not in the middle, the front edge, to make sure it's firmly latched.